step that we must take to restore fairness, to reduce the bitter divisiveness and toxic politics, to restore the two-party system, to exercise honest debate and the competition of ideas. For many years, I have been working hard to eliminate partisan gerrymandering. In 2018, a federal judge called it a cancer on our democracy. And I couldn't agree more, which is why I have been proud to bring together Republicans, Democrats, and independents, and groups like Common Cause and the League of Women Voters, and bipartisan reformers from one end of the political spectrum to the other, not just here in Maryland, but all across the country. Leading the charge for redistricting reform and the elimination of partisan gerrymandering at every level, from here in Maryland to taking it all the way to the steps of the Supreme Court, where the governor himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was with me, and who accomplished this in California. By the way, I got to tell you a funny side story. As we're leaving that Supreme Court hearing on gerrymandering, we're walking back to our cars at the end of that. He turns to me and he says, "Hasta la vista, Governor," which I thought was, he's still in character after all these years. But nowhere has gerrymandering been allowed to run more rampant than here in the state of Maryland, where decades of unfair redistricting and the drawing of legislative and congressional districts have made a mockery of the electoral system. Maryland citizens have been deprived of the ability to participate, and it has embarrassed our state with the unfortunate distinction of having been labeled the worst, most gerrymandered, most unfair districts in America. These absurdly drawn districts are the direct result of a blatantly obvious scheme where one party rigs the system to concentrate one party's voters as much as possible while segregating another party's voters into a larger number of districts so that they can continue to win comfortably. This, what you're seeing on the screen, is the congressional district that we're in right now, the 3rd district. And a federal judge said it looks like a pterodactyl lying prostrate across the center of the state. When former Governor Martin O'Malley, who drew these maps in 2011, was deposed in a major federal lawsuit challenging their constitutionality, he admitted under oath, quote, "It was my intent to create a district where the people would be more likely to elect a Democrat than a Republican." This is how, in Maryland, a state where one party has a 2-to-1 registration advantage, our state's congressional representation is dominated instead 7-to-1. And it's not just Republicans, but in addition, black voters as well, who continue to be underrepresented as a result of this same corrupt system. This is exactly the kind of formula that leads people to doubt whether their democracy is fair and is truly working for them. For the past 5 years, every single year, our administration has introduced the Redistricting Reform Act in an effort to take the politicians and the partisan politics out of the redistricting process, to end this process of politicians drawing their own district lines and picking their own constituents rather than the other way around. And sadly, but perhaps not surprisingly, legislative leaders have repeatedly failed to take any action whatsoever on this important bipartisan common sense proposal, which is supported by an overwhelming supermajority of Democrat, Republican, and independent voters. Every year, they've repeatedly hidden it in a drawer and refused to ever bring it to the floor of the House and Senate for an up or down vote. Now, more than ever, this is far too important to ignore or to play partisan politics with. We need true, nonpartisan, and non-discriminatory redistricting reform. So today, I am launching the beginning of what will be a sustained effort to restore fairness and competitiveness to Maryland's congressional and legislative districts by the 2022 elections. I have just signed an executive order which has established for the first time ever in our state's history a Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission, which will be charged with preparing fair, honest, balanced, and equitable maps for all of Maryland's congressional and legislative districts. Districts which comply with the U.S. Constitution, with federal law, including the Voting Rights Act, and with all applicable judicial discretion, direction, rulings, judgments, or orders. As such, these maps must respect natural boundaries and the geographic integrity and continuity of any municipal corporation, county, or other political subdivision. Districts must be geographically compact and must not take into account how citizens are registered to vote, how they have voted in the past, or what political party they happen to belong to. This Citizens Commission will be comprised of 9 members, including 3 registered Democratic voters, 3 registered Republican voters, and 3 independent voters who are not affiliated with a political party. I'm pleased to announce the appointment of Judge Alex Williams, Walter Olson, and Kate Hetherington, a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent, to serve as the co-chairs of this commission. Their first duty will be to independently select the remaining 6 members from the applications submitted directly by Maryland voters. These leaders will assemble a commission of citizens free from any kind of legislative or political influence, and which is representative of the state's diversity and demographics. Each appointee must be a Maryland voter who has, for at least 3 years, been registered continuously with the same political party, or who has continuously been unaffiliated with a political party. No appointee may be a representative or a candidate for representative in the General Assembly or the United States Congress. They may not be an officer or employee of a political party, a political committee, a member of the staff of the governor, the Maryland General Assembly, or the U.S. Congress, or a registered lobbyist. Members of the public who wish to serve on this Citizen Commission can apply directly online at governor.maryland.gov/redistricting. Applications must be submitted no later than February 11th. This commission is the first of its kind in the history of our state. And unlike the partisan backdoor manner in which the state's political power brokers have conducted the state's redistricting process in the past, this time we want to make sure that the people of Maryland are actually the ones drawing these lines and not the politicians or the party bosses. This commission will conduct its business with integrity in a completely open and transparent manner, holding regional hearings to allow Marylanders to offer their input, and by creating an online portal for citizens to review data and submit comments and input. The committee will approve and certify final redistricting plans for Maryland's legislative and congressional districts and draw final maps that correspond to those plans, which will be submitted for introduction in the General Assembly. This is what the people of Maryland desperately want, and this is what they deserve. So once again, I'd like to thank our 3 distinguished co-chairs for agreeing to serve the people of the state at this important moment in our history. And now I'm going to turn it over to Judge Williams.
Thank you, Governor Hogan. I am honored to have been asked, along with Dr. Hetherington and Walter Olson, to co-chair the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission and to participate in the important task of drawing boundaries for legislative and congressional districts in Maryland. I look forward to working with other members of the Commission in developing an independent and fair plan. It is no secret that the issue of reapportionment and redistricting are among the hottest and most contentious issues this nation has had to address and grapple with the past several decades. There has been extensive litigation around the country, and Maryland has had its share of lawsuits and challenges in both state and federal courts. We look forward to the release of the census report, which will provide the Commission with population and other critical data to assist us in developing the boundary plans. Our challenge, like other redistricting commissions around the country, will be to consider and give appropriate weight to the federal and state guidelines and criteria imposed on drafters, and then to develop maps that are fair and in compliance with the law. I am confident that the full Commission will work diligently together to discharge its responsibility of reviewing data, conducting public hearings, and getting the input of citizens, of public officials, and of other stakeholders in connection with our charge to independently develop a mapping plan and process which is transparent, legal, and fair. It is my hope that our work on this important task and the ultimate product will be viewed favorably, not just in Maryland, but will serve as a model for other states to look at. Thank you again.
With that, we'd be happy to take a few questions. Okay.
I'm hoping that you can give us some more information. I'm sorry to pivot on the topic about security, what you learned yesterday from the FBI, your own security team, about threats to our state capitol and anywhere else in the state.
Sure. Well, we've been, I think I may have mentioned the last time we talked, I think, was that yesterday? I'm starting to lose track of time. Yeah, I had a big security team meeting yesterday. We had another one today. We talked with the mayor of D.C. and Governor of Virginia yesterday afternoon. We're continuing to work with all the federal partners. We have, there have been multiple requests which we've agreed to help the district with. I don't think it's quite official yet or announced yet, but I'll break the news to you that we're doubling the number of Maryland National Guard that will be in D.C. We have a formal request, which we've agreed to go from 500 members of the Maryland National Guard to 1,000 members of the Maryland National Guard in D.C. There are ongoing discussions about securing the nation's capital, not just the immediate site around the Capitol itself, but the entire city, with potentially, lockdowns and shutdowns of Metro and multiple other things that are going on. Every federal and regional and local authority is working, I think, in a coordinated fashion. And I think those are continuing to evolve and develop as we speak. I mean, we don't have a final, this is on an hourly basis. It's getting more defined. Lots of cooks in the kitchen and trying to make sure we can keep our nation's capital safe. Switching gears to the other, here at the State House, we also have had our own independent plans with the front line of defense here is the Capitol Police, who are responsible for it's a state law enforcement agency that is responsible for the Capitol complex, the State House complex, all the legislative buildings. They're working in conjunction with the City of Annapolis Police, the Anne Arundel County Police, and the Maryland State Police on beefing up their plans for additional security. And, I can just, I'm comfortable that although we're not sure what we may or may not see, that we're going to be a lot better prepared than they were in Washington last Wednesday.
I'm sorry, just to follow up, I'm sorry, Mackenzie. If hearing that there are, I know there are more than 1,000 American National Guard members, but some may ask, well, if we have 1,000 of the National Guard troops down there, who's going to be here if it's needed?
Well, it's an excellent question. Right now there's a more pressing need in Washington, but trust me, we're not going to leave ourselves unprotected. We will have the access to the Guard. We actually have about 1,900 that are they're either deployed overseas on missions or that are, for whatever reason, not able to be called up immediately and or that are already working on vaccines and other things. It still leaves us, another force of another 1,000 or so that could rapidly deploy if, in fact, we needed them here, and they're already making all those contingency plans. If in the first line of defense, Capitol Police, the local police, backed up by the state police, followed by the Guard if we need them. It's exactly what we did in Baltimore in 2015. It's what we did in Baltimore this summer when we had 900 members of the Guard, hundreds of state police, but we let the city of Baltimore police take the front lines. It worked very well. We had the best response in America, I think, and less violence and very peaceful protests, and no destruction like we saw in a lot of places, or very little. Sorry.
Topic of security. What do you say to people who are planning to come to protest at the State House armed? And then second part to that is, do you feel personally in danger or threatened by you speaking out against some of these events that we've seen?
On the first part, I would strongly advise anyone not to come to the State House armed, and I think they would regret that if they did. Number two, I'm not concerned, although we do have hundreds of death threats, and crazy people on social media has ramped up dramatically. But we're going to keep doing our job and trying to keep everybody else safe.
Also, a two-part question. Are you concerned at all about your safety at the inauguration? And then secondly, ahead of the siege last week, there was specific, credible intelligence about plans to attack that Capitol building. Are you aware of any specific detailed plans to attack this building this weekend?
On the first part of the question, look, I do feel safe going there. I think it's important to show. I'm glad the Vice President's going to be there. I'm going to be joining a number of my other governors, I think, on both sides of the aisle, who will be there to witness on behalf of our states a peaceful transition of power. We have our executive protection detail, and we have all those other law enforcement and Guard in the city. I think they're going to make sure that the incoming president and vice president and all the members of Congress and the governors are going to be safe when we're there. No, we do not have any credible, detailed threats here. We see things. Look, a lot of this is real and a lot of it's fake. There's disinformation all over the internet, and there are all kinds of groups that are posting things about we're going to have armed assaults on all 50 state capitals, and they're trying to create confusion. I'm sure some people may show up to protest, but we don't see any. We don't have a specific threat that we're zeroed in on, or not nearly the kind of threats that that they were kind of ignoring, I think, in Washington last week.
Governor, related to the vaccines, it looks like the federal government may be seriously considering releasing second doses to states in advance to be used for primary vaccination. Will the state go ahead and use those to expand the number of people who are getting first-time vaccinations, or do you plan on holding those back so that people who have already been vaccinated will be guaranteed their second shot within 21 to 28 days?
Well, it's a great question that we're still working on. So I had a lengthy meeting in my office on Monday with Dr. Robert Redfield, head of the CDC. We have a call today with Vice President Pence and the Coronavirus Task Force from the White House. NGA is a number of governors are talking and reaching out. We're trying to get the Biden transition team has some proposals. The outgoing administration supposedly is going to make some announcement, which we haven't heard the details of. Our goal is to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible, but not to run out of the second doses and to have a bare cupboard. There's been a lot of talk of it. Obviously, no one's happy with the pace of the rollout in any direction, anywhere. But right now, we're far outpacing our supply. So if you look at a chart from where we started a couple of weeks ago, we're shooting almost straight up like this. We're doing better than most people in the country. We're doing like 15, 16,000 vaccinations a day. We only get 10,000 a day from the federal government. We have to make sure we have those second doses, or we're in big trouble. So it's getting agreement from both producers that they can produce fast enough, getting a commitment from the federal government that they're going to get them to us fast enough, and figuring out if all these actual providers, the hospitals, the nursing homes, the pharmacies, the local, can they get the volume done in time? I said last week or 2 weeks ago, I still believe it's going to be the case. The first couple of weeks, it was all, why aren't they all done? Why aren't you getting them out fast enough? The next story is going to be, there's hundreds of thousands of people waiting for the vaccines, and we don't have any. So, our plan is very well thought out. 1A, 1B, 1C. Going down to 1C, which is what they're talking about expanding to, taking all the ones that are left over from the second doses and dishing them out to everybody. That's about 1.5 million people. We have 300,000 doses. So you've seen what's happened in Florida and Texas and other states. They're like, we're getting heat for not getting them out. So let's just change all of our plans we've worked on for 9 months and throw them out the window. We may have to make adjustments up and down based on what they get us. What we do not want, I don't want to ever see in Maryland what we saw in Florida, where we have, tens of thousands of people, older people in walkers and wheelchairs waiting all night, camping out to get a vaccine, and then be turned away in the morning because they don't have any vaccines. Texas had 250,000 people go online and crash their system for something, only had 750 doses available. Right now, ours is, keeping pace. We're growing rapidly. We're beating, at least half the other states in the country. I don't want to have vaccines laying around. I also don't want to run out and not get the second doses. So there are lots of discussions, lots of moving parts. I believe we'll probably, after I talk to the White House today, after I talk to all my fellow governors, after we hear from the Biden transition, after I talk to Pfizer and Moderna, our internal team, I would imagine in the next couple of days, probably not tomorrow at the start of session and still have these meetings, maybe Thursday, we'll have another announcement about what exactly the next steps that we're going to be able to take with respect to the vaccines. It's, I'm never going to be satisfied until everyone gets one. And I'm not, but I don't want to cause more problems by, throwing out the system that's, while slow, working okay, rather than, many states, they crash their systems. They can't answer the phone. They have hundreds of thousands of people clamoring because they said I'm 65 and I should get it, and they don't have it. We have received, I don't know the exact numbers today, 300,000 vaccines. We have to do 12 million some vaccines, so we have 5% of what we need. I don't want to lie to people and tell them, we're going to open up the floodgates. Right now, we don't have enough for the frontline healthcare workers and the people that live in long-term care facilities. So as production comes in, we'll say, now if you're, and so we're taking care of the most vulnerable, the people that are in the most danger, and then we're going to move to those older people that are not in congregate care, not in long-term, not in assisted living, not in nursing. Maybe it's 75 or 65 as we get the supply. I do not want to be like some of these states that are completely shut down and blown up.
Is your preference based on what your experts are telling you, that you keep everyone who got their first vaccinations on that 21 to 28 day schedule and get their second vaccination?
That's what that's what our plan calls for. We do have the vaccines to get them, if we can get them into people's arms, which we're pushing every day with our healthcare facilities to get them faster. They've improved dramatically. If you look at what we did on testing from 50 a day to 50,000 a day, that took 9 months, and it was kind of a slow. This one is going like this. We went from 0 to 15, 16,000 a day in 3 weeks. It's pretty, I know it's not fast enough, but they're growing and they're doing better every day, and we're doing better than most of the people in the country.
Governor Al said the other day that he's leaving the Republican Party. What is your message to Republicans out there who are hinging on leaving the party or going somewhere else because of what happened last week?
Well, I can't fault Colin Powell for his decision. I'm sure he did what he felt was the right thing for him after much reflection, and he's not alone. There are a number of other people doing that. I would hope that some people who agree with me, I've been in the same place I've been in for the whole 4 years. A lot of people have just changed their position, not Colin Powell, but others are changing their position since last Wednesday. I just think, look, I'm a bipartisan guy who wants to work across the aisle, but I'm a lifelong dedicated Republican. I was a chairman of Youth for Reagan. I believe that we should be returning to the party of Lincoln and Reagan, more traditional, big tent, positive message, hopeful. I don't want to leave the party and let these people that did a hostile takeover 4 years ago take over. I want to stay involved. There's other leaders I'm talking with a lot in Washington and other state capitals who also agree. And I think it's important for us to try to fix the party and make sure we go in a direction where we can actually have a healthy and competitive two-party system in America, and that we can, actually have a more positive, hopeful message that's going to attract more people, and that we can actually win elections again, rather than just giving up and walking out.
There are some people that are calling for Congressman Andy Harris to resign over his comments over the election. Have you talked to him? What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I answered that the other day. I don't. It's not up to me to tell Andy Harris what he should do. I obviously don't agree with the comments he made, particularly after the insurrection, the attack on the Capitol, the threats to assassinate and murder the vice president, and after law enforcement officers and others died. The first time since 1812 that the Capitol's been ransacked. I think it was in really bad taste. I don't know what prompted him to say and do the things that he did, but it's not up to me to decide what he does with his political future.
Dan Cox, who has said similar things, he tweeted while the Capitol was under siege, he tweeted that Mike Pence is a traitor, a comment that he tweeted that at 3:30 during the breach. The comment's since been deleted, but what are your thoughts on what ramifications, if any, are appropriate for Delegate Cox?
Yeah, I would say, the same thing. I mean, it's the guy's I don't even know who Dan Cox is. I know he's filed suit against us multiple times. He's a QAnon conspiracy theorist who says crazy things every day. He called me a communist Chinese spy for China. He called the vice president a traitor. He was down there gathering people at the Capitol. I don't even know what makes him think this way, but he's certainly not the kind of person I would vote to put in the legislature or support in any way for anything. But I think there may be a move in the legislature to censure him or take some kind of action, but I'm not really involved in that.
The Ravens play Saturday. The lighter question about the Ravens and restaurants. They play Saturday. Kickoff is at 8. Restaurants close at 10 o'clock. Would you be interested in lifting that ban just for one night?
No, I would not be interested in that. Look, nobody's done more to try to help the restaurants with all the relief we've provided. The restaurants in Baltimore aren't even open anyway, so that's not going to change them much. Those local leaders are going to make those decisions. And we're now in the worst part of the pandemic, with now the UK variant in the state, with 5 days in a row of our highest infection numbers, with our highest level of hospitalizations. Now's not the time to be easing off restrictions, just because I'm a big Ravens fan. I'm going to be celebrating the game, watching it on TV at home, but I don't think we should be opening bars to pack them as super spreader events. Yeah.
Governor Hogan, after the siege of the Capitol last week, you were quick to say that President Trump needs to go in some fashion. Now that another impeachment is imminent, what would you like?
Now that what?
Another impeachment appears imminent.
Yeah.
What would you like to see Congress do, in particular your fellow Republicans? What would you like to see from them?
Yeah, I said the other day that I think I was the first Republican to say it, that the country would be better off if he were to leave office, and that Mike Pence could conduct a peaceful transition of power over to Joe Biden, either resign or be removed from office. But that's for Congress to decide. I don't know what they're going to do. I know that the House will probably take some action. The Senate probably will not. To me, I just want to make sure, my goal is to send those 1,000 soldiers to D.C., to send the police officers, try to make sure that nobody gets hurt, that the Capitol doesn't get attacked. If they decide they want to move and take that action, then I could be supportive of it. But it's only like a week. I just want to make sure we land the plane in a week, and we get on with our lives, and we get a new president, vice president, and we return some normalcy and some sanity to the country.
Thank you.